Good afternoon, YouTube. This is a friendly warning. If you're planning on watching my Moroccan playthrough, then do not continue with this video any further because it has all kinds of spoilers. So there we go, you've been warned. If you're going to watch my Moroccan playthrough, this contains spoilers. Do not go further. But if you weren't, or if you've already seen it, then good afternoon, YouTube. I'm Ursa Ryan, and as you can see, this is the end of my Moroccan game. We finished the playthrough, and oh my god, it felt like forever to finish the damn thing, but we did it. We finished it. We won spectacularly. And what I've done now is I've just given back like London and places like that. So essentially all the cities we have now are the cities that we've either built or conquered and sort of, I guess, sort of incorporated properly into our empire. Now, one of the things I'm always aware about when it comes to Civ is the fact that not many people do Liberty starts. Tradition is genuinely the start that is sort of recommended by a lot of YouTubers, a lot of professional Civ people, I say professional, expert Civ people, people who play on multiplayer, who want to beat the AO on deity difficult, that sort of thing. And yeah, Tradition I'd say is probably easier to conquer and master, but Liberty is very fun if you give it a go. So this video is sort of a very quick sort of tutorial as to what a Liberty game should look like at the end. So if you can see what an empire looks like at the end of the game, having gone Liberty, then maybe it'll help you build it as you go along. Now you can see, I mean, the biggest problem with Liberty, and this is the problem I always find with the game, is happiness. Now happiness is always going to be your limiting factor going through, and you can see down here, right at the bottom in the unhappiness, 113.4 generated from the number of cities. Now to explain, this is on, we go into the details, a huge map. Now if you're playing on standard or less, or even a large map, this won't sort of count as much, but on a huge map you get 1.8 unhappiness for every city that you've got. Standard is 3, large is 2.4, I think. So 1.8 unhappiness. So huge maps lend themselves massively to having more cities. You have the same 1 unhappiness per citizen, but you only have 1.8, so 60% of the unhappiness you would normally do. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's a different type of unhappiness. If it's population and specialist, do you see there? Add the 420 together and the 220 together, unhappiness from population specialist, you get to 640. And then above that, you've got 620 from local city happiness. So that unhappiness can be measured by and sort of limited by local city happiness if you build the empire well. Now I've kind of, towards the end of the game, I was a little bit lax, and you can see there that I've got about 20 more unhappiness than I do local city happiness. I'll explain about local city happiness a little bit, but that's sort of not so good. I mean, with only 11 happiness total, I haven't done so well there, so don't worry. I mean, this isn't sort of perfect example, but what you need to do is you need to make sure that local city happiness equals population and specialists to as much as you can. And that's easily done. I mean, to explain, you get 1 unhappiness for every population you have, but that can be offset by this thing called local city happiness. If I go into, let me just show you this very quickly, the economic overview, you can see just, look, I mean, I've got a load of cities. Don't tell me I don't have many cities here. That's awesome. That's really cool. But look, there we go, local city happiness. You can see here, Marrakesh, for instance, is getting 17 local city happiness. Now, local city happiness is generated from a number of things like colosseums, zoos, buildings that give happiness. Also religious buildings like pagodas, mosques, cathedrals, that sort of thing. There are other bits like stonework, circuses. I mean, what sort of thing have we got here? Colosseums. Monument is giving me happiness because of my later game bits and pieces, but essentially the difference between local city happiness and happiness given to you by, say, resources is that it doesn't escape in the city. So if you've got too much local city happiness, say I had a colosseum, a zoo, a stadium, and a pagoda giving me 8 local city happiness in a population 6 city, that doesn't spill over. So that 2 extra happiness is wasted completely. It can only get rid of unhappiness. It can't give you more happiness. So my point is that 113 unhappiness generated from number of cities is going to be your biggest issue. Essentially, the number of cities you can have is limited to the to the happiness you're bringing in from exceptional sources. Now, normally in a game it's luxury resources. You can see here 68 are being brought in, and I guess that's sort of the main way of doing it. You can build wonders, things like the CM Tower gives you a large amount of it. Notre Dame, Chichen Itza, I think gives you some. I can't remember the others. Taj Mahal, maybe? So there are a few ones that give you it. But if you're going for a wide empire, really, you want to be going for loads and loads and loads. And Liberty can really help you with that. Now, as I was saying, that 1.8 unhappiness is very difficult to get rid of, which is where Liberty steps in. Now, Liberty is very good for getting a quick start. It gives you a 3 worker and a 3 settler as you go down it. It also gives you one extra hammer and 5% production in buildings. That sounds like nothing, but once you've got 60 cities, that does add up to a lot. What, 60? Oh, oh, very sorry. Bless me. The biggest thing, though, is meritocracy here. +1 happiness for every city you own that's connected. Now, they're all going to be connected unless you're an idiot, because you need to connect them for the city connections. Look at that, 957 gold coming in per turn. If you didn't do it, you would be silly. And look, yeah, they're 56 happiness connected to the capital. Now, that is brilliant happiness. That is not local city happiness. That is actual happiness going towards that 113. And it's great because essentially you get 1.8 on happiness, but immediately one of that will disappear. So actually, each city gives you less than 1 unhappiness every time you pop it up. Liberty, I mean, it doesn't sound like much, only 1 happiness for every city, but essentially you're getting rid of over half the unhappiness per city, which means just from that one policy, you can have twice as many cities, if not more. It's a really, really good one. I mean, Liberty is massively underrated. Getting yourself a golden age, I mean, lots of little quick bonuses. I mean, the extra settler, the extra worker, that sort of thing is great, but it's the long-term things in Liberty people overlook. For instance, the speeding of the training of settlers by 50%, that's not that great. I mean, your capital isn't going to be huge because you don't want a really big city, because that'll give you local city unhappiness that'll stop you from getting more cities. So, I mean, you can see here, London, before I took it, England city was like 40 big. You can see here, this has just been nuked. That was 38, Nottingham's 30. I mean, so these have got some big cities here. My capital's only 18. And actually, a lot of my other 2 main cities, Rabbit and Fez, are also only 20, 21. And that's because the local city happiness maxes out at about 17. I don't want it to go any higher than that. It would be silly to. I think I've got 1 or 2 like Constantinople, but again, only 21. That's as far as we're going to get, 20. We're not going to have huge cities. So, yeah, half speed settlers is fairly good, but to be honest, you're going to have so many cities. You can build 6 settlers across 6 different cities, and that'll beat it in speed. This one is really good. For 25% extra worker production rate. Doesn't sound like much, but actually, with about 20 workers, if you've got 40 cities, that bonus will go a long way into improving your empire. And city improvements are the differences between terrible cities and really good cities. I mean, you can see here, the city down here in the desert. Yes, I'm Marrakesh. Yes, I've got Casbahs, but there are very few good tiles that I can work down here, which is why this is stagnated at 7 citizens. I mean, admittedly, I've gone for gold focus, so this has been limited somewhat more. But even if I flip this back to just default focus, it's only growing 30 turns. I mean, it's not great, and that's just, you know, I mean, it's not great at all. Improvements are what you desperately need, and so that skill is well worth it. 33% less culture cost, that is a lifesaver as well. If you're going to go Liberty, then the amount of culture you're going to need per policy just shoots up massively. 17,000 for 1 policy. And I've got a few, but I mean, I don't have that many. I mean, it's I haven't gone for like a culture victory or anything, so it's I don't know. It's a really good tree. 5% less unhappiness from citizens. I mean, that doesn't really make a difference because you've got local city happiness coming in, but it's all good. I mean, what that means is that you can have 19 city local happiness and 20 population, so it doesn't make a huge difference. But that's essentially what you need to do. You need to make sure that all of your cities don't have any more population than your local city unhappiness can provide for. And that's how you go to a situation where you get, you know, 640 against 620. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that you can use all your happiness to get lots and lots of cities. I mean, just to put this empire in context, my computer can't load it all. That's how many cities I've got. Look at all of these. It's crazy how many cities I've got. Let's just work this out. 113 divided by 1.8. I don't know why I said that. I'm not going to be able to do that maths. Hang on. Go into the economic overview. Let's do this, shall we? Oh, actually, no. We can scale this up. Russia have 2 cities, right? So how many points do Russia have for cities? 11. How many have I got? So I've got, I mean, it's about 5 points per city. So I've got about 70 cities, I'd say. I mean, it's, have you ever seen a playthrough with 70? When people go, whoa, I'm going to play wide. Nah, unless you've got 70 cities, that's not wide. And you need this level of cities. Because, I mean, you can still hear, I've got positive happiness, but things like the 2% increase in tech costs, I mean, that's 5% on a regular map. Culture costs by 5%, that's 10% on a regular map. That will get, it will get weighted out by just the sheer amount of cities providing for you. So don't worry about that sort of thing. Now, having loads of cities does a few things for you. You can see down here, crop yields, manufactured goods, GMP. I'm so far above the average, it is crazy. If someone were to go to war with me, my cities, even though my cities can produce, say, a quarter as fast as someone else's massive city, doesn't matter, because I've got 8 cities for every one they've got, so I can still outproduce them. And actually, I can outproduce the average by almost 5 times. So for every 1 tank they throw at me, my empire's grinding out 5. I'm impossible to take on in a full war if I switch all my cities. And you can see, look, most of my cities are building XCOMs towards the end of this game. I was producing them so quickly that I was just throwing them at people, and they couldn't get killed quick enough. I mean, my soldiers are easily thirst, and I'd only just switched to Total War. I mean, it's crazy how good a Liberty Empire can become. Let's have a think about this. So one other thing to look out for when you're doing a Liberty City is gold. Now, having a swing in gold can be massive for a Liberty Empire. By that I mean, look, we've got 360 gold coming in per turn. You'd think, oh, that's really good. But actually, when you look at the numbers, it's 3,300 coming in and 3,000 going out. That is a very small profit, if that would make sense. The expenses going out for my empire are huge. Now that 1,700 on building maintenance, that is too much. This is an example of an empire that is too greedy on its buildings. Now you can see here, if I just go into a random city, we have got all of the science buildings, we've got a few production buildings, and maybe a culture building. Now that culture building, that shouldn't be there, really. I mean, that I don't know why I built that, but that's, I mean, look at that, that's giving you 1 maintenance. Spread across an empire, that's 60 gold per turn. That makes a huge difference. That would be a 20% increase in our gold just by not having that that building. I mean, you can see other bits and pieces. Lighthouses are worth it, always worth it, but shrines, I mean, I had a really, and I'll go on to religion in a second, but I had a really successful religion. I don't need that shrine anymore. Again, get rid of all those across my empire, another 60 gold per turn. Temples, again, that's 120 gold. I mean, already, just from this one city, if that's representative of all of my cities, I've just found myself 240, 300 gold savings per turn. That doubles my gold output. I mean, Liberty, you have to be so careful on building maintenance. With a tradition empire, you build everything you can because you want a city to become as good as you can. With a Liberty empire, you have to specialise. You have to think, what do I really need? Do I need a factory? That's going to be costing me 3 gold per turn. I think it's 3 gold per turn on a factory. Yeah, that's costing me 3 gold per turn and only giving me 5 extra hammers. Does that make sense? Or should I just have 3 cities making something instead of 1? That's the sort of mentality you have to go down. It's very different to playing to tradition, but it's very good fun because of the just sheer stuff you can make. And if you can keep that gold nice and high, it means you can command an army that, I mean, look, I've got so many troops. I mean, if we just go into the unit list quickly, look at all those XCOM squads. That is have you ever seen that many? That's got to be at least 50. I mean, and I could easily, if they were all paratroopers beforehand, with 1,000 gold coming in per turn and the Pentagon, then I could easily upgrade them without breaking a sweat. The Liberty Empire would just do that for me. Having a ton of gold as well with the Liberty Empire is really good because you can give sums of gold to people who hate you. You can buy cities out. I mean, it makes diplomacy a lot better for you. Now, religion is a really important thing. Now, I was very lucky with Morocco. I had a very good start, and obviously with Morocco, if I just show you this quickly, you can see all of the faith my desert is producing. Look at all of these faith tiles. And that's because I got a pantheon that was the desert rituals, I can't remember what it's called, pantheon. But you need a good religion to sustain a wide empire. Religion is critical. And let me show you why. Pagodas, +2 happiness. Mosques, +1 happiness. Now, that means, okay, that I can have 3 extra local happiness in each city. That doesn't sound like much, but when you have 60 cities, suddenly that's 180 extra citizens you can maintain. At the start of the game, when you've only just unlocked Colosseums and you're building as many cities as you can, you've only got Colosseums, but actually that would only be 2 city happiness per city. That's awful. But with pagodas and mosques, that's 5. So your city can be over twice as big. I mean, I know that it's... I'm pulling facts out of context here a little bit, but religions are so important, especially for gold as well. I mean, you can see here, I'm getting 86 gold per turn from my religion. And that's just from a pretty naff gold... Yeah, church property, plus 2 gold for each city following the religion. Teeth is a lot better towards the later stages of the game, but church property is better towards the beginning of the game. That gold per turn makes a huge difference, especially with liberty and controlling those building and unit maintenance costs. I mean, it's incredible how much of a difference it makes. One other factor you can see there, 400 gold, 440 gold is the rail network. Now that again is probably too much, and what I could have done is I could have dropped into the commerce tree to get rid of that. I mean, that would have made a huge difference. 200 gold per turn, that would have been worth had I gone there. So, I mean, I should have thought about doing that, really. So, I mean, things to think about. You have to go down Liberty. Liberty is so much better than tradition. Don't listen to anyone. It's awesome. It's really good if you can put the time in. Get a religion. You have to go for a religion. I mean, when you start the game with Liberty, you need to be jumping right onto pottery as quickly as you can, getting shrine, and I mean, wonders become irrelevant. If you're going for a Liberty playthrough, you don't want to be wasting your time with wonders. Yeah, wonders are brilliant. They can change the game. They really can. I mean, the CN Tower would have given me 60 extra happiness. I mean, it's a brilliant wonder, but towards the beginning of the game, Stonehenge, I mean, yes, 5 faith per turn. That's a really big bonus. But actually, I could have been using that production to make 5 cities, all with shrines in them. Do you know what I mean? It's with Liberty, you want to be just building. The only exceptions would be things like... Chichen Itza, extra happiness, which is very useful at the beginning of the game, and length of golden ages will make a huge difference for you, as will things like the Notre Dame. Those possibly could be worth it. Oh, and Machu Picchu, that's awesome. And if I managed to build Machu Picchu, I would have had a huge bonus on 950 gold per turn from City Connections. It would have made a huge deal. I mean, just to show you quickly down my cities, I mean, we're going to economic overview again. We'll order by population. I mean, you can see here, I've got, I mean, only 5-6 cities that are above 15 population. The rest are all quite low, and actually they don't make, I mean, they still make quite a lot each, but look at that gold income from each of them. You've got to be just pulling in the gold, putting in the hammers, and you'll find that by having that many cities, you will easily overtake a city that can produce more than you. I mean, it's difficult to describe. You just have to go for loads of cities getting lots of stuff, and you'll get there. You don't need big cities. Big cities are for wimps who want to hide away behind their castles. Liberty. Yeah, you've got to spread. Now, a Liberty victory, where does that go for? I mean, I'd say science victories become hard. The reason why science victories become hard is because buildings like universities, Great Library, things like tech, you need population to pull those in, and actually when you spread your population around between cities, it is a little bit more difficult to generate science. And you can see here, you end up losing extra science as well from just by having cities in the first place. I mean, 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but with 60 cities, I'm easily going into 2.5 times what I would need to get a tech ordinarily. And seeing as I don't have a big tech producing city, that's an issue for me. I made up for that by going down piety, getting a Reformation belief. Now, Reformation beliefs, if you go Liberty, can be make or breaks. They really can just win you the game. And for me, it won me the game because Jesuit education, with this many, I mean, I've got 700 faith coming in per turn. That was giving me a 3 university, a 3 public school, a 3 research lab every turn. I mean, if you watch the playthrough here, it was just building stuff for me like crazy. I mean, oh, it was fantastic. I mean, I can't tell you how useful religions are. Towards the end of the game, what sort of things should you be looking for? I mean, I opened up patronage tree. That was a waste of a point. That should have been on commerce. I went for tradition. Now this actually helps you loads. It increases the border expansion of cities. When you've got 60 cities, that's a lot of extra territory. It really makes a big difference. Oligarchy as well. Once you've got 60 cities, that's 63 units, which towards the end of the game could be saving you 200, 300 gold per turn. It's these little things that work really well. Oligarchy, wagon trains, and things like free thought and secularism. Rationalism is essential to go down if you're Liberty. You're going to have so many specialists throughout your empire. Those beakers will make a huge difference. And as you go towards the end of the game, well, ideologies. There's only one ideology you can go down, and that's order. Order is the best ideology for a wide empire. There's nothing else will come close to it, I can guarantee you. Because it's all about generating happiness. And when I say that, I mean, let's have a look. Socialist realism. +2 local happiness from monuments. What city doesn't have a monument? If you don't have a monument in your city, you're an idiot. Like, 2 extra culture, and it's like the first thing you build. 2 extra happiness is a huge difference. That's 120 extra population just from that one. And you can see here, young pioneers, everywhere has a workshop, a factory, a power plant. I mean, that's going to be add up to tons. Academy of Sciences, I mean, my religion, that was giving me observatories, public schools, research lab, well, not observatories, but research labs and public schools. Again, I've given myself, every city's, a 6 extra happiness just from going order. Doesn't sound like much, but times it by 60, that's suddenly 360 extra population. It's the best. You really have to go order. I mean, it really does. Your game accelerates by that point. A few other points to make. You will notice that when I go onto this, I do not have any puppeted cities. Now, why don't I have any puppeted cities? Puppeted cities, you may think, oh, well, if I don't annex them, I'll have less unhappiness. That's really good. Wrong. That is the worst thing you can do, is to annex a city, so to puppet a city for a long period of time. What you do is when you take a city, say I'd just taken Cologne, that would have 8 turns of sort of disruption and resistance. Puppeting it for that is fine, because essentially that stops you from getting extra unhappiness in those 8 turns. Essentially, what you need to do is immediately annex it, build a courthouse in there. Again, that's going to start to contribute to a lot of gold maintenance as you spread, but that's fine. You build the courthouse, and then once the building's yours, you build things like the monuments, the pagodas, spread your religion, that sort of thing. I mean, if you don't own the city, it is not going to spread very well. And that's your religion won't spread very well, happiness won't spread very well. I mean, I noticed this when I was sort of in this area. Once we'd taken Byzantium's lands and Germany's lands here, I was getting so much unhappiness, and I couldn't understand why. I'd puppeted all the cities, but when I looked at each city, they hadn't built a monument, they hadn't built a pagoda, they hadn't built a colosseum. Puppeted cities are idiots. Unless you're Venice, they can't do it. They really can't do it. So you have to annex as soon as you can to make sure that you've got the local city happiness in. And that's the only way you can do it. I mean, what spies should be getting you techs, really? I mean, you're going to essentially be hated by everyone. Look at this. I'm guarded by everyone. Now, I did go to war. That is a big part of this game. But essentially, people will hate you from day one with the Liberty Empire because you spread so wide. You have to spread your empire as wide and as far as you can, and that will cause you a lot of negative diplomacy with people. You have to live with that, and that's why having such a large gold income and being able to spread and get all these luxuries for yourself is really important, and have the army to back it up. You shouldn't be playing a peaceful game with Liberty. It's very difficult to. The only way you can do that is if you're playing with other humans, or basically you pick another empire. Say England. England was actually my friend towards the later stages of the game until I nuked him. That's because he was going for a science victory, and I needed to rush him. Liberty, you're never going to win a science victory. You're always going to be second or third best, but that's fine. You've got the army to back it up. So I was always second best in terms of science, but I knew that I had the force to obliterate London, and I did. I took London, I stopped the science project, and I won. So Liberty games are more complex. Diplomacy is one of the best wide wins you can get. The sheer amount of gold you can produce if you're careful is crazy. If I'd been more careful with my policies, and I'd been more careful with my building production, I could be getting in excess of 1,000 gold per turn. If I'd also gone down the diplomacy or the patronage tree, I would have won a diplomacy victory easily, and I'd have the military to back it up as well. If people start going to war with my city-states, I would have just destroyed them. In my case, I destroyed all the city-states to stop Greece from doing the same thing. Whatever victories, I mean, a military victory is fairly standard for you. A cultural victory is very difficult because you can't really build wonders very well. But again, it's one of those things where having some culture is not a bad thing, because by being familiar with people, you can take cities with less unhappiness. Now, I'm not convinced having a high culture actually is good for a Liberty Empire. By taking over cities with more population, that's more local city happiness you've got to deal with quicker. So I personally think, and as well, you've got more resistance for longer. I know it reduces the resistance in terms of percentages, but I'm not convinced. More research will have to be done by me on that one. I mean, what else? I mean, yeah, in terms of the text, just things that multiply. Getting as many trade routes as you can is very useful. Internal trade routes are not important at all. You don't want food being passed around your cities because, let's face it, your cities aren't going to be very big. You want trade routes going out. If you could be Portugal, if you could be... I was Morocco, and I was getting some decent bonuses towards the beginning of the game just by having trade routes. It was great. And I can't recommend it enough. Liberty games are what drives this game, and really, in my opinion, separates those who can play and those who really understand the game. So if you've never given a Liberty game a go, they take a long time, and I wouldn't recommend doing on as big a map as this one. I mean, this took 45 episodes to do, so I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. 45, I haven't worked this out. How long would that be? I think that's like 12 hours, isn't it? Maybe longer. God, I dread to think. But if you haven't done it, I would massively recommend it. It's really, really good fun, and you can start to get some crazy odd scores. So, I mean, I love it. They really are my favourite. So I hope this was sort of useful. I mean, you can see a little bit what a wide empire looks like. I mean, you don't need to go autocracy. I mean, I don't need any more oil or like luxury resources. I can pay. I don't need my army to be any cheaper because I can pay for it. I still think order is the best way to go. But there we go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this is sort of interesting a little bit so you guys can see what a wide empire looks like. And if you were going to watch the Moroccan Empire playthrough, I'm very sorry about that. But the Celts one and the China one were also quite wide if you want to have another example of those on slightly smaller maps. But thank you so much for watching. My next Civ game will be a little smaller, so I'm looking forward to that. But if you haven't checked out my Skyrim playthrough and other bits like that, then please do. And until then, I will see you next time. Bye!